Scientists who study forgiveness have found that it is one of the most essential factors when it comes to healthy relationships. Studies have shown that couples who practice forgiveness in their relationship are more likely to have a more romantic, enjoyable life together. Forgiveness is so essential because nobody's perfect. We are bound to make mistakes. No matter how close a soulmate or perfect partner you might have, there's 100% chance that there are differences between you, and differences mean potential for conflict. So forgiveness is needed in all relationships. So how do we cultivate forgiveness and make it a regular practice in our relationships? Don't go anywhere, stay tuned and find out. Hello again and welcome back to our channel. This is episode 5 of our series on how to make relationships work, and today we're talking about forgiveness. Lack of forgiveness makes resolving any conflict in a relationship very difficult. So what is forgiveness? Let's start there. What is forgiveness?
So forgiveness is just to stop feeling angry or resentful towards your partner for a mistake they've committed, for a flaw or an offense they've carried out, against you. It's an intentional action. It's a process. It takes time. It takes a lot of manipulation of your emotions to get to a place where you're comfortable with that person, so that when you see them or you speak about several things, you don't feel that hurts anymore.
So forgiveness is basically no longer feeling angry and not looking to punish them as well because of that mistake or flaw. What we would say is to let forgiveness sort of be like your default, where you go to whenever there's a misunderstanding or an issue between you as partners. Let forgiveness be the first port of call and the first default that you go to, because it just helps bring you closer to a place where you can actually sit down and discuss whatever the issue is to resolve it. But if you hold on to the feeling of hurt or the feeling of anger, then it just prolongs that process, isn't it? Of at least getting to a point where you can discuss what's happened. And forgiveness is reciprocal, which means that we should forgive as much as we are forgiven. If we forgive, then we're more likely to be forgiven when we've gone wrong or when we've done wrong. So if it's give and take like that between you and a partner, then it's easier to forgive because you're quick to remember what you've done wrong in the past. So you're more likely to let go and forgive your partner because they've forgiven you in the past before for something that you may have done, whether big or small.
And the fact that we're all humans means that we will always make mistakes.
No one's perfect.
No one's perfect. And just like the Lord's Prayer, which is a part which says, Lord, forgive us our sins as we forgive those who trespass against us. So what that part of the prayer is saying or teaching is the fact that forgiveness is reciprocal. If you need forgiveness, if you want to be forgiven, then you should also be willing and be ready to forgive others when they do upset you or offend you. And with forgiveness, there's no maximum number of times you need to forgive your partner. And over time, it gets a bit easier as you practice that act, and it gets healthier for you as well.
Forgiveness helps you to regulate your emotions. So it forces you to practice the act of, right, this offense has made me angry, so stop, calm down, walk away from the situation if need be, regulate your emotions, and then come back to the situation to discuss or whatever the case may be. So it helps you to practice that, and over time it gets easier.
And regulating your emotions as well helps you or arms you with techniques to manage conflicts, and in doing that you are able to preserve your relationship, ensure longevity, not just in a relationship but in your life as well.
It's not just for the person that's offended you, it's also for yourself. We need to learn to forgive ourselves as well when we're the ones that have done the wrong or have offended someone. We need to learn to forgive ourselves, because if you find yourself in a place where you're constantly beating yourself, not only does it affect you, but it can also affect your relationship. The key thing is to learn from your mistakes, accept what's happened, accept consequences if need be, and move on, so that you don't repeat those things that you've done.
Yeah, and if you are not able to forgive yourself as well, you stop yourself from giving your very best towards that relationship. You find that you are always looking behind you, looking at the past, comparing past relationships or past actions with what's going on now, and you can't enjoy the moment. You can't enjoy what's going on or where you are at in terms of your relationship now. Like Steve Harvey said, if you're driving and you're always looking at the rearview mirror, there's a high chance that you will run into somebody or run into something, and you hurt yourself and stuff like that. So it's very important and critical that in the act of forgiving others, you also forgive yourself.
So how do you go about learning the act of forgiveness, learning how to forgive, how to let things go? Well, the first thing that I would say is to look at where you want to end up. Look at your goal, where you want to end up. You don't want to end up in a situation where there's coldness between you and your partner. You don't want to end up in a situation where you're no longer talking or there's no love between you. You want a situation where things are easygoing. You've got a friend that you can talk to about anything, someone that you can approach easily, someone that you're living the rest of your life with. So someone that you can easily approach with, that you feel love for. If you look at that as the end in mind, then it helps to sort of put what's happened now into perspective, to where you can forgive. You can sort of let it go and forgive, because you're looking at the bigger picture of where you want to be as per your relationship.
It's all about contextualizing the offense at this time, and still have an eye on the future, where you guys are going, where this relationship going, and also for the greater good. And by the greater good, it might mean your children and your other extended family relationships, or even social relationships. So
it's all affected, isn't it?
So it's almost a domino kind of effect. That simple act of forgiveness, plays a large role, in not just in the relationship between the two of you, but in the other people connected to you as well.
So the second thing that I would say is another way to help you to forgive is to think positively about your partner, right? If you find you're in a situation where your thoughts towards your partner is negative, or it's constantly negative, if you're using words like "you always do this, that," or "I expected this to happen anyway," because this is you we're talking about. If you have that kind of negativity, then you're less likely to be able to forgive. You're less likely to be able to let things go. But if you're thinking about your partner in a positive light, then it helps you to look at each circumstance in its own merit, right? Then to sort of generalize and just have a negative attitude towards your partner. So it's very important to sort of build that positive, to always have that benefit of doubt, right? And just give them that positivity, because it opens you up to hear them out. It opens you up to think things through logically, rather than feeling hurt and expanding that feeling of hurt. It helps you to think things through logically, if you have a positive mindset towards everything.
And we're not saying that that bit is easy, because the general human mind brain is attuned to thinking negative about anything or anyone.
You remember more of the negative than positive.
Especially if you have been in a relationship in the past and a few things are mirroring where you are right now with this particular person. It's almost instant that you will go back into a negative mindset, with regards to your partner now. So like Mary said, it's an intentional act to reprogram your mind. If you can change the way you think, you can change the way you act. And if you capture that in the thought process where it is, then just call yourself to order. Then you can very much move forward, with our relationship.
And that connects back to what we talked about with regulating your emotions, because you're checking how you feel, you're checking what you think. Then that allows you to be a bit more positive about every situation than sort of defaulting into negativity.
In terms of checking yourself and how you feel, that has to be done, regularly. be very, very aware, because whilst you are taking care of the things going on around you, you should not forget yourself. So regularly check how you feel with regards to this partner. If things are going off in your head and in your mind, then it's a good time, no matter how small, it's a good time to just stop and just examine what's going on.
The third way of learning how to practice the act of forgiveness, or learning how to forgive your partner more, is to drop the case. What I mean by that is to let go of the past, to let go of situations or things that have happened in the past, to stop cataloguing and recording what your partner may have done in the past and always recalling it back with every situation. So you need to learn to look at each situation on its own, right? Because if you can look at it on its own without calling, in what's happened in the past, then you're more open to hear them out and find out, okay, what's happened this time. The outcome, the negative outcome of the situation, the current situation, might look like the past, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the same circumstances. So it's always worth to give your partner the benefit of the doubt and actually hear them out, than to sort of snap into, you always do this, or you always do that, or last time you did this, that, last year you did this, and now you've done this. It doesn't help. It doesn't show that you've forgiven the past if you keep recalling it. I mean, I can understand why we do it. I do it. We all do it. But I can understand why, in the sense that if your partner has just done something that looks exactly the same as what they did a week ago, or a month ago, or a year ago, you almost feel like you're in the right to say, look, you're still doing the same thing. You did it last year. You did it last month, and so on and so forth. But the point we're trying to make here is, it doesn't help the now. It doesn't help the situation right now to bring in all those other circumstances. It's best to just concentrate on what's happened now and talk through it and understand your partner's point of view. Why have they done the same thing again now? Because a lot of the time, I don't know about you, but if you're the person that has done the wrong, right, and your partner is going on about, oh, you've done it before, you've done this, you've done that, you'll probably shut down. You won't even bother trying to explain yourself. And the current situation might be different from when you've done the same thing previously. But because your partner's gone straight into, oh, you do this and you did that, and last year you did it, and last month you did that, you're probably not going to bother explaining yourself, are you?
Yeah, because people or adults don't like being critiqued. People don't like being policed. It's a natural thing. You achieve a greater, more positive response from your partner when you go in softer and with more understanding, rather than with a sword trying to pierce through and accuse.
Trying to make a point.
You make a point. Yeah, you are right. But the eventual outcome is to make your partner see that what he or she has done was wrong, and get them to take responsibility. Because if you go in with that police badge and break down the door, you are wrong, accuse them, then they will always look for a way to defend themselves and justify their actions, and sometimes they know that's the wrong thing to do, but just to catch you out. So at the end of the day, both of you are going knocking each other back and forth, and there's no headway in that situation. So,
and at the end of the day, the person that suffers the most when you hold grudges or when you hold the past at heart is yourself. It's not even the person that's done the wrong. You holding the grudges, you're the one that's suffering, because you're holding all that bitterness, you're holding all that hurt, and sort of filing it somewhere in your heart just to use it again another day. You're only hurting yourself. So it's easier said than done. But again, as we talked about the first point, look at the end goal. Look at the end goal of the kind of relationship you want to have, and sort of have that at the forefront of your mind, so that you can easily let go of what's happening now. With the end goal in mind, when we're able to sort of let go of the anger now, and let go of the bitterness and all that, then you have more of a passionate, tender, loving attitude to yourself, and that makes things a lot easier and smoother to talk through and to try and get to a resolution.
And if you're finding you're struggling with the anger, from what your partner has done, it's just best you step away from the situation. Just go for a walk. Don't sing, counts. There are several things you can do, but the main thing is just to pull yourself away from that situation, to give yourself time to think and just think through things, and then even going back to the point, think about the end goal and think about so many other things, and then come back. You're better prepared. Your mind is well readied, to address that situation logically and rationally as well.
Okay, so the fourth point that we'll talk about to help with the act of forgiveness is to not listen to that inner voice, that that critical inner voice that makes you want to be vengeful, or that makes you want to hold on to your right to anger, or your right because you're the victim, or because you're the one that's been wronged. That makes you want to hold on to that and to tear your partner down because they've wronged you, or to sort of have it in the back of your mind that you're going to get them back because of what they've done or anything like that. We need to learn to not listen to that inner voice. And again, I will revert back to the first point that we made, having the end goal in mind, right? So that will then help you to not listen to that inner voice that makes you want to nurse your anger, or makes you want to give them the silent treatment and things like that. It just helps you to let go of that and not listen to that inner voice.
You need to ask yourself, to what end? How is this impacting on me? How is this impacting on my partner? For all we know, your partner may not even know this has impacted you this way. Especially if, for example, they felt that they have apologized. So to them, it's all sorted and done, but you are still holding on. You are doing yourself a lot of disservice. So it's very important that you check that voice when it comes. Be very aware of it.
So the fifth point that we'll mention here is don't recreate old dynamics into your relationship. And what we mean by that is to do with the past. Don't bring past hurts into your relationship. An example would be a parent might have been an alcoholic, and you lived through that. So now when you see that your partner is drinking alcohol or is a little bit tipsy when you've gone to a party or something, it just brings up an anger in you, and the resentment, and not feeling like you can't forgive them for that wrong that they've done. You need to sort of stop and check yourself and think, hold on, is my anger equal to what's happening now, or am I bringing in old dynamics into the situation right now?
It may even be misplaced anger too.
Yeah, exactly. So, or it could have been maybe you had a family member or a relative or someone that used to get angry all of a sudden out of the blue. You don't know what's happening. They're throwing tantrums, or they get really angry. Maybe you had someone that had anger issues in your life, and then that's sort of playing in your relationship now, to where you find you're suddenly sparking off and getting really angry over certain things that sometimes when you think back, you think, hold on, why did I spark off like that? Or why did I get so angry? It could be old, dynamics, or old situations that you grew around that might be at play here. So it's always good to sort of self-reflect, stop and check, think things through. If let's say there's been an argument or a fight or something, stop and think it through and think, was my behavior or was my reaction equal to what's actually happened, or am I overreacting or even underreacting? That's a possibility as well. And remember that forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean that you're condoning the behavior of the person that's done wrong. You're not condoning it, but you're just letting that hurt and anger go so that you can deal with the situation. That is all forgiveness is about, and being able to let go of the hurt and anger so that you can talk through what's happened. You can talk through the situation and deal with the matter at its heart.
It gives you clarity of thoughts when that happens. You're clear-headed. You're able to rationalize what's going on now, and actually think about what the root cause of that reaction or that anger or that unforgiveness is. What's actually causing? What's actually behind this. You're able to address that, and it will help you. And one last pointer to help with the act of forgiveness is good old fashioned apologize. It doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what has been done, just apologize. Apology brings healing, it brings closure, it brings understanding. It helps the hurting partner come to a place of safety, and it gives both of you an atmosphere or a ground or a platform to discuss what has gone wrong and how to fix the problem. It can be very upsetting, especially for the victim of the offense, to not receive apology from the one who has offended or who has defaulted. So good old plain apology will go a long way to ensure that forgiveness happens.
And don't, if you're the one that's the victim, or you're the one that's been offended or hurt, forgiveness is a process. Be patient with yourself. Don't rush yourself to force a feeling. Just like we said before, forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a conscious decision. But you have to be able to get yourself at a point where you can forgive, especially where the offense is of a great magnitude, that you have to try and get over with. The key thing is to let go of the anger, and to deal through all the other emotions that you might be feeling. So allow yourself time to go through those emotions. Allow yourself time to go through the thought processes that might go through your head. But the key thing is to be able to arrive to that point of forgiveness. And if you ever find yourself in a place where you're just struggling to forgive, you're struggling to let it go, whatever the situation may be, it might be worth seeking professional help, so to help you talk through things logically, because by yourself maybe you're struggling to think it through logically. Maybe you're just clouded with the emotions of it all.
It might even be linked to what you've experienced in your childhood or in your past. So that you really need help.
So it might be quite deep rooted to where you might need some professional help. So it's always worth trying that out first before giving up completely on a relationship, or giving up on a situation and just thinking you'll never be able to get to that point. Again, thinking of the end goal in mind, it's worth seeking professional advice or professional help to be able to get to that point. The big question now is, what if your partner doesn't change? What if your partner keeps doing the same offense over and over again? What do you do then? Do you just continue to forgive and forgive and forgive? Or what do you do in that situation?
Hopefully, if we can apologize for those things we've done, strive to make a change, strive to be different, in your steps towards, avoiding those errors, then, it can help. But when those acts keep repeating and playing again over and over again, depending on the offense, you might need to reevaluate your relationship, especially when it comes to things like infidelity, where your partner is going out of the walls of your relationship. You would need to reevaluate that relationship and ask yourself, then, is this going anywhere? Am I supposed to be here? Because forgiveness is not just you pardoning or letting go of the mistakes of your partner. It's also taking care of yourself. And forgiveness in that situation may mean you removing yourself from that situation, separating yourself. Have a think. The relationship, unfortunately, might not be repairable, but you can come to a place where you are at peace with yourself and with that partner as well. So that if both of you decide to go separate ways, all well and good, you can maintain an amicable relationship outside the confines of anything intimate between both of you. So that way, you are healed, you are happy, your partner is happy, both of you live separate lives, but still have, if necessary, still have that amicable relationship, especially where children are concerned.
If it's something that is, how should I put it? If it's something that is the character of the person, So let's say, for example, I mean, the only example I can think of is
Just get into this now.
when I wash dishes, for example.
God.
And this was one of the first arguments we had as a couple. When I wash dishes, for example, right, I don't like taking out the dirt or the debris out of the sink and into the bin constantly, right? I put it to the side of the sink, which is just an arm's reach to the side of the sink. And then when I've finished everything, then I collect and put it in the bin. That is just the way I do it. Don't ask me why.
An arm's reach.
Don't ask me why, but that is just the way I do it. Now, sometimes something might come up where I haven't finished the dishes. There is a bit of sort of dirt to the side of the sink, and I've walked away from the sink because I've had to stop and go do something, or whatever the case may be, and I haven't come back to the sink. And Paul has seen this there, and he hates it. He finds it disgusting. He doesn't understand why it should be there. And he gets, initially he used to get angry over it.
You can
right?
see I'm gritting my teeth.
He used to get angry over it. Now, something like that, you can either sort of keep holding on to it and let that irritate you every single time and get angry over it every single time because it's something that I keep doing, right? It's an offense that I am doing that he doesn't like. Something like that, you just have to accept and just let it go, right? 9 times out of 10, I don't leave it there. When I finish all my dishes, that's the last thing I do, and I clean the sink and it's done. So it might just be those few occasions where I've walked away from the sink without finishing everything, and that's when he might see it. So now he still doesn't like it, but he's gotten to the point of just accepting that is MaryAnn's process. That's how she washes dishes.
That's the cross I have to bear for the rest of my life.
So, you can either choose to continue to get angry over that or just accept and let it go. So, you might have a completely... That was the easiest example I could think of.
There's the toothpaste one, a lot of people...
Exactly. The toothpaste is another one where people sort of get really angry over. I mean, seriously, in the middle of the tube, at the end of the tube, who cares? That was one of my issues as well. But seriously, who cares? Just, if you squeeze it in the middle, just go back to the bottom and squeeze it right back up. And that's it. Or just leave it. Just let it be. Because at the end, when the paste runs out, he will roll it from the bottom. So don't stress over it. So it's simple things like that where you can either choose to just accept and let it go, or you can choose to let that irritate you every single time and you get angry and you start getting negative about your partner, and the slightest thing you're irritated or you're offended. Those little things that they keep doing, those little offenses that they keep doing, you might have a different example for yourself, but our advice would say just accept it as that's just the way they are and let it go. But if it's other bigger issues like alcoholism, for example, or even domestic violence is a bit. I mean, let's use alcohol, initially as an example, where he's drinking, he gets drunk, when he's sober enough, you talk to him about it, and he says, "I won't do it again," or "I won't drink as much again," but then he keeps doing it and he keeps doing it. Situations like that. You might need professional help to deal with the alcoholism on its own, right? And B, yes, those are situations where, for the sake of the relationship, for the sake of the marriage, if you're married, or the children, you might need to forgive and just continue to seek help for the person. You might need to involve professional help to see what can be done about the alcoholism, on its own and things like that. And yes, you might need to forgive so that you can actually continue to help your partner, having the end goal in mind to see if there's a way to help him or her out of the alcoholism and things like that. But if it's a situation where the alcoholism is leading to domestic violence, now that's a completely different situation where you might need to think about your safety, just as Paul talked about earlier on. You might need to put yourself in a position where you're safe, or your children are safe, and then from a distance perhaps continue to help or support your partner through getting professional help or anything like that. And the only way you can continue to support and help from a distance is if you let go of any anger and bitterness. If you're holding to anger and bitterness, you wouldn't even want to help your partner, would you? You would want to just walk off and that's it. You're done, and but there might be hope for the relationship. You never know. It's just taking out the emotions so that you can rationalize and logically think about the whole situation and reevaluate that relationship. If you don't take out those hurt emotions out of it, then you might end up making wrong decisions. So that's where forgiveness comes in. Forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean staying in that relationship. That is something that you would have to look at the whole picture and evaluate. But what we're talking about is let forgiveness play its role so that you can logically, think things through to make the right decisions for yourself. So regardless of whether you stay in the relationship or you leave the relationship because your partner continues to, make that offense, you still need to let forgiveness happen. You still need to have forgiveness in your heart for that person.
Yeah, and that forgiveness as well, like we said earlier, it does not just impact the other person, the offended person. It also impacts you, and it could impact in your own mental health. It could impact in your physical health. It could impact you in your emotional health. And when you hold grudges in for so long, your body reacts in such a way to defend itself, and because you are putting your body in a constant state of anxiety and fear. Your body has the response of flight, fight, or freeze, and that state of anxiety is the fight phase. So that your body is releasing hormones that's propelling you or getting you ready to react or to fight. So to be in that state all the time is not healthy for you. So you need to find a place somehow to manage all of that, no matter what it is, no matter what the offense is. Like she has said, you need to rationalize and think through things, and then get yourself in a place of safety and peace and ability to rationalize and think through your next action step.
So thank you once again for joining us today. Just to remind you, we upload a video every Tuesday and Friday, and we continue the series on how to make your relationship work. So if you don't want to miss the next video, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell. So until next time, bye.
Bye.